I'm here with Matt Bruback. Did I pronounce your last name correctly? I did. Okay, great. I was looking at it, I was like, I wanted to say Brubaker, then it was like Bruback. Awesome. Well, Matt, thanks so much for being on the show. I'm really excited to talk to you. You have a new book that's out, and it kind of caught my eye. I found you on LinkedIn through a random post, and yeah, I just really wanted to connect and to talk to you about this book.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I got a copy of it here, right here.
Look at that.
So this book, The Hidden Gems of Marvel Comics, really highlights the first 10 logos Marvel put out from 1940s, 1944 to about 1969. And so these really, the name of the book is The Hidden Gems of Marvel Comics, because people don't even know about these. Until I came up with a new way to catalog comic books, I called it the Universal Comic Guide Catalog. Nobody really knew which comics had the first logos. So this new method identified through copyright, publication date, and alphabetical order which comics came first, which helped me identify which comics had the first logos, which very very simple. It was validated by an archivist, Joshua Nunez, to be accurate to an academic standard. Then I started working with Matt Nelson over at CGC. Obviously, we all know him, the legend. He just had his new book on grading come out, which if you haven't picked that up yet, you should pick up his book. He's very talented, a lot of information in there. But he's quoted in my book multiple times. He kindly reviewed it for me, which was great. And then also 10% of all book sales go to the Renovation Foundation. So I'm working with Jeremy Renner. And so one of my sets, I put together seven complete sets of the first 10 logos. One of my first sets actually went to, this one was featured at the Comic Con Museum this year, and for 6 months during the convention. And so one of those first sets is going to be sold and auctioned off, and half of the proceeds are going to go to the Renovation Foundation. So it is amazing what they do. They help really underprivileged children in the community, and here in the Reno area, Jeremy is beloved. Obviously, he's beloved with all the Marvel fans as well. But just thankful for you having me on, Ty. A lot of information. I could ramble all day.
Yeah, for sure. No, you're giving me lots to lots to work with. So I didn't know that Jeremy Renner was like particularly well liked there in Reno. That's new to me. Is that where the snowplow incident
Yeah,
happened?
yeah,
And
he lives kind of like in the Mount Rose area, and so I guess he was trying to save. There was an issue with some child, and he was trying to save it, and jumped out, and then while he was jumping out to save the kid, it rolled on him. So I'm just glad that he's okay. I mean, he was
yeah,
in the ICU for a long time, and so obviously he's one of our Avengers, so we can't lose him.
I can't lose
So
Hawkeye. One of
yeah,
my favorites for sure.
yeah.
So yeah, what is this I guess your first interest in these comics from the like you said the 40s and going forward, where does that interest come from for you?
Yeah, so I started collecting comics in late 1980s. So my dad was in the military. So my first comic books that I received were at a military base in Naples, Italy. There was a shopette there. So that's where Strategic Command is for NATO. And so my dad was there working with all the different branches of the military. And I just fell in love with comics. And when I moved here to Carson City, Nevada in 2019, my mom started having there was a medication, and it started causing some signs of onset dementia and some mental issues, and so I felt like I had to be closer to her, and so I moved here, and thank goodness the medication got balanced out, new meds, and things got better, which was good. But during that period of time, it was kind of a last ditch effort. I had to move from Florida here, so I sold all my comics. And so, first, how it is. First Wolverine, first Punisher, first, all the good stuff. And so I had enough money, so I moved across the country. And when I was here, I was like, I still love comics. And so I started looking at some of the historical ones from 1940s, and I started seeing these logos pop up that never seen before, and that kind of created the curiosity of like, wow, like I didn't realize Marvel was around in 1946. And I was like, okay, well, let's see which one of these is the first. And I came across comics.org, and they had some information, but a lot of it wasn't helpful. And so what I did was I came up with my new method to use. And I started looking up copyright dates, identified all the different comics, and I put all of them in the book. That's one thing about the book is it's kind of I look at it as Marvel gold, because these are hidden gems nobody knows about, and I really want people to go out there and find them because this comic right here, the first comic in history with a Marvel magazine logo, Willie Comics #5. There's literally 13 of these in the world. That's it. And so what I'm hoping is people will be able to find them. If they buy the book, they'll know what to look for, and they'll be able to go to those garage sales and go to those, you know, I guess it would be garage sales, antique stores, and things like that. But a little history about myself, Ty. So another thing that motivated me was the back of this book has a child hitting a grand slam at recess. And so I used to play professional baseball. So the second I saw this, I was like, this is on the first comic in history with a Marvel logo. I was like, I got to do this. I felt very motivated. Like it was I felt divinely orchestrated, which might be silly, but we're all motivated by different things. Um, it came together. The book is done. I started working on this in 2019. It's a short book. It's like 75 pages. It's really informational. I am not a writer, but I have a book now, so I feel blessed. I get an opportunity. I mean, who would have known? I mean, what are the chances that I would live in a town with an Avenger with Jeremy Renner? I mean,
Sure.
that's like how many Avengers are there? How many towns in
Right.
this country are there?
Yeah.
I actually started a networking group called the Compassionate Business Networking Group. And
Hmm.
so I met a gentleman there, James Gallows, and he was the one that introduced me to Jeremy and his foundation. And so, yeah, just kind of everything, you just kind of go in life and then everything kind of comes together. So I feel like it's all come together. Now my goal is to get the book out there and let the fun begin for everybody. Because I do believe, I think at the heart of the comic collector is it's fun to look at garage sales and then you find those unique books. I had this gentleman the other day, his dad was a big time collector and he recently passed away. And so he brought me five long boxes. It took me 2.5 hours to go through them. But he had some really cool, amazing Spider-Man from the 60s and 70s. So
Wow.
it really is fun to kind of flip through and find that stuff.
So when Marvel Comics became an official, the official title of that comic book company, because it used to be Atlas Comics, right?
Yeah, it
Before
was
it was
Timely
Marvel.
Comics, and then it became Atlas in 1944, switched back to Marvel in 1946, and it was Marvel 46, 47, and it went back to Atlas in 1951. And so that was
Mm.
kind of when they were having distribution issues and they shrunk the titles. And it wasn't until the 1960s, obviously early 60s, that we started getting more characters and the firsts, right? First Iron Man, first Spider-Man, first all that. And that's really where Marvel exploded and then officially became Marvel in June of 1961 with this comic book. Journey into Mystery. It had an MC logo right there, little
Yep.
MC if you can see it. So the
Hmm.
thing that's cool about this, and so this is the only MC logo that's smushed together. And so one of the things that me and Matt Nelson at CGC, discussed, and he decided he wanted to save or preserve more comics, was the comics. He decided to go with CGC with just the copyright date. So the copyright date, publication date, and alphabetical order is accurate to academic standard and it works, but he wanted to save more comics. So there is Patsy Walker number 95 has that same logo, but the MC is not smushed. And so there's a lot of little signs, like even though Patsy and Journey into Mystery 69 had the same copyright and publication date, the alphabetical order actually works. And like I said, that was validated by Joshua Nunez, and he was an LA archivist, and actually met him through my girlfriend had a friend who was an archivist, and she said, "Well, I'm not a comic archivist, so I'll send you to Joshua." I was like, "Great, perfect." So
Yeah.
it just all worked out, you know. Very very happy.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up Patsy Walker because I think through Marvel Comics, the early versions, so that you starting in the 40s, of course, we were coming out of the World War II, which is where we get Captain America. So like the comics kind of reflect what's going on in society, at the time, through the decades as we go forward. I remember one time they were trying to appeal to more girls, get more girls into comics, and that's where some of the Patsy Walker were, she wasn't Hellcat, she
Right.
was
Yeah, yeah.
in romantic
Right. Not
comics.
yet. Not yet. Yeah.
Right,
For
exactly.
sure. Yeah. The good
And
girl
so,
art, I do love it. I mean, I'll show you. So some more good girl art. This is Genie Comics number 13. This has the second Marvel logo, Marvel Group. There's only 15 comics of these in the world that have this logo. Here's another good girl art. This is Joker Comics number 26, 27, number 27. And so this logo right here, a Marvel comic, was only on 2 comics. This is the rarest Marvel logo in history. So it's on only 2 comics, Joker number 27 and Gay Comics number 27. And so that's pretty cool. And then this was in 49, Nellie the Nurse. This is the first round Marvel logo. And so
oh,
Marvel comic, but see if I
that's
can get
incredible.
closer for it. Yeah. So, yeah, and I think there's only 17 of these in the world. Just beyond rare. I'd like to, I mean, the Holy Grail, right, is thrown around in a lot of comics, but I truly believe these comics, if anybody can find them, I hope people find them. I really do, because it's preserving that history. There's a big element of preservation here, and like Marvel itself doesn't even own a copy.
Really? Not in the
Yeah,
vault or
they don't
anything?
even have a copy. So I'm hoping one day that they come knocking, and I'd be happy to give them one.
Yeah.
So I think they should have it in their archives. And so my sister worked at Disney as well. Well, she worked for a subcontractor at Disney. Yeah, Feld Entertainment many moons ago. And so, I mean, Disney's going to be around a long time. So I'm hopeful that I'll hear from them. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
Maybe your podcast, Ty, will
Maybe somebody will hear it. Yeah, and come out and
inspire
knock
them.
on your
Yeah,
door. Matt, we need that comic.
yeah.
That's incredible. For those who aren't accustomed, there's that white number, the white tag with the number in the top corner of your comics that you have. What does that mean?
The white. So the grading.
Yes.
Is that what we're talking
Hmm.
about? Yeah. So each comic at CGC is graded, and they have within Matt Nelson's book, they detail like a lot of the books from the 60s. So like Journey into Mystery, there's what they call it Marvel chipping. So there'll be a lot of chipping. So it's really hard to get higher grades. But even so, if it's a white comic, that obviously is going to be a higher grade. Once it gets to yellow, off-white, and brittle, I have so the first Atlas logo was on Terry Toon's comics number 17, and I had it looked great. It graded out at a 1, and it was because all the pages were super brittle. And so that was kind of a bummer, but yeah, I actually feature that comic specifically in the book. There's only 5 in the world that have been found of this comic. It's Terry Toon's. Let me see if I can. It's right here. There it is. So in the book, so that's Terry Toon's comics, and that's the first. It's a round blue and white Atlas logo. This was only on 7 comic books, and there's only 5 of these that have been graded. And so then this is the first Marvel logo of Willie hanging out. It's funny because I go through a lot of random little details. Like this Willie Comics number 5 is actually Willie Comics number 1. They never had a 1, 2, 3, or 4. They literally, so what the companies used to do to save money was they changed a title. So um, this was Ideal Comics number 4, and they changed it to Willie number 5 so they didn't have to pay the tax stamp to the government. So that's the reason it wasn't number 1. But I do mention all that kind of stuff inside the book. It's just random information about comic history.
That's incredible. Yeah. It was the 5 the highest grading you can get for a comic?
Oh, I apologize. I didn't answer your question. Yeah, so you can go
Okay.
all the way to a 10, but I think there's a handful in the world. The majority, like if it's pristine, it'll be a 9.8. In these kind of comics, any grade is a good grade. I kind of like the ones that are more roached. I feel like they have a little more character and they've been thrown around a little bit. But obviously, with the newer comics, you want the higher grades because there was a lot printed. And so with these super duper rare comics, a 5 is a really good grade. And as you can see, this presents very well. You don't have any chipping. It's not cut. It's not, it presents very, very well. And that's one thing too, is on the back of like the first comics that were ever graded, that actually got the logo information on the front label from CGC. The president, Matt Nelson, signed stickers for me. And so he couldn't do any kind of special collection, but he kindly said, I'll put some stickers on your comics and let everybody know that we actually work together in getting this preserved for the future.
Incredible. Yeah. And then I think preserving this, like your friend that you approached, where she says she's not an archivist for comics specifically, but it's kind of what we need, right? Is somebody that's used to archiving, the most important documents in comics may not seen like that to some people, but they are sort of a testament to us in our society, the things that we've gone through over the decades. And there's I think a lot of people chase after that amazing fantasy, with Spider-Man, right? They think that's
Yes.
that's the holy grail for them. But then I realized that these comics have a lot of value to them, and a lot of the characters that are like household names now came from those. More like Happy Hogan, right? Who started off in some of those romantic comics that we were talking about earlier, and Patsy Walker, who was in the Jessica, what's her name, in the Netflix series.
Yes, yes, yes. I know who you're talking about. What he was Nick Cage and who else? It was Jessica. What's her
And
name?
Nick Cage. I wish it went in Cage had a Netflix series.
Yeah,
Luke Cage and
Luke
Jessica
Cage. Thank you, thank you,
Jones.
Luke
Yeah.
Cage. Yes, yes. Who is Jessica? Why am I the super strong lady?
Jessica
That's
Jones.
horrible.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully all those Spider-Man fans will try to get Amazing Spider-Man number. This is annual number 4. So this is the first MCG logo, and it's
Hmm.
it's right it's right
Yeah.
there. It's a tiny logo, but this is actually the only Amazing Spider-Man of the first 10 logos. But I did sneak in Spider-Man at the top of the book.
There you
I
go.
know
Yeah.
Spider-Man's the man, So yeah,
Right. Right. Right.
for all of our
And
Spidey
universally
fans. And then on the
recognizable.
back of the book, this is actually Silly Tunes number 6. And so that's the coach. The guy with the football was running the wrong way. So I don't know. I just thought it was funny. So I added it to the back. But Silly Tunes number 6 has this is all mentioned in the book. So you have Willie Comics number 5, and then you have Silly Tunes number 6. They both have the same copyright date of September
Hmm.
30th. But Willie has a publication date of fall 1946, and Silly Tunes number 6 has January of 47. So if you put it in order, it makes sense. Willie came first. And so I do mention that in the book, but CGC does recognize Silly Tunes number 6 as an additional first. And so the sets that I put together for CGC, they have all the firsts. So it's actually 10 logos, 10 comics, but those end up being 16 comics because, like the first Marvel comic group logo, which was on Journey into Mystery number 91. There's 2 other comics that have the same copyright date. And so but Journey into Mystery number 91 is first. And so I did mention that also in the book. Every additional first is mentioned. And I understand what Matt Nelson was doing. He was trying to preserve more comics. And in the end, I think it's good for the industry. But that's the first comic in history with a Marvel Comics group logo. Yeah. So
Incredible. So going forward from here, is this the end of your archiving journey? Are you going to continue to do more?
yeah, so I actually um, archived 40 different companies. And so it's over 175 first logos that I've worked with Matt Nelson. I also work with CBCS. So Wes Steffen over there, he cataloged just the first logos of the big brands. And then I worked with PGX as well. I just wanted to make sure the information was shared amongst, the companies that could preserve the information. So this is my first book. The next book is going to be Archie, and so that's really it's Wilbur Comics #7 has the first and Archie magazine logo, and there's only I think 16 of those known to exist today. And so that's another thing. Being you think about the big books, right? Timely Comics, Archie Comics, DC Comics, those three companies pretty much bought out every other company, comic book company. And then in the 80s and 70s and 80s, you had a bunch of new companies that obviously Dark Horse and all those that still exist, kind of separate from the big three. But it was really Timely, Marvel, and DC and Archie. So I feel like those are truly the holy grails of comics. That's where it all started, 1939.
Right.
Good time. Well, 38 with DC, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Have you ever considered working with was it like the Library of Congress? I don't know how that would work in preserving maybe some of these comics so that they are publicly available, or the National Archives.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. So I know that none of us live forever. People will be watching this podcast in 1,000 years. Um, and that's how that's how we leave a legacy is we
Hmm.
actually record stuff. And so my goal at some point is probably to give the Library of Congress a set, and have them preserve it. Right now, it's going to bounce. One of the sets is going to bounce around to different museums. And so the Discovery Museum here in Reno showcased it. The Comic Con Museum in San Diego um, showcased it. There is now a new George Lucas Museum I'm working with to try to get it showcased there. And then in New York City, I initially was working with the marketing director Brock for the Empire State Building. So that was the building that had the first Marvel office. The
Hmm.
first Timely
Yeah.
office was actually in the McGraw-Hill building. So I was working with both of those buildings. And at some point, I would like to get the comics displayed in their lobbies. I think that'd be kind of cool. This is where Timely started, and this is where Marvel started.
Yeah.
Just to, I mean, it's New York, right? I mean, that's the powerhouse of comics.
Absolutely. Yeah. And to show the history, how far back it goes. It's really great. Awesome. So Matt, you're in the process of writing your next book right now about Archie.
Yeah, yeah, it's I haven't I'm so far along I have no title. So but I do have the information, and I think it's important. It'll probably be Archie next and then DC. DC has a ton of logos, and so pretty cool. Action Comics #23 has the first DC logo, which is a little round, a DC publication, and it's cool. I like it. I wish I could buy it. There's one in a sixth grade for $95,000 available, but I don't have that extra cash. So
Okay.
if I
Maybe
could
somebody
find
will
a
hear about what
roach
you're doing.
copy of that, say that again. Sorry.
So, yeah, maybe somebody will hear about what you're doing and happily donate you
That'd be kind of
some of
cool,
those rare
actually.
ones.
I
Yeah.
wouldn't say no to that.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to display it for a little bit and then put it
Well, the
in
great
better
thing
hands.
is that you're sharing this publicly. You're not keeping it to yourself. You're not a private collector. So I can tell that you're passionate about sharing this historical significance of all of these different comics. And that's great. So surely, somebody will feel what you're doing and stand behind it. I know, like you said, none of us live forever, and these pages that were printed back in the 30s and 40s certainly don't live forever.
Yeah,
And so we have to find the ones that are preserved and try to preserve them for the future generations as well.
yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I mentioned, and I even asked Matt Nelson to provide me with a free ad, because the goal here is the historical preservation, and I do believe CGC provides the best grading services in the industry, and so that was nice that he gave me this ad to throw in here on the book. So another thing that I do kind of define, because obviously I mentioned earlier, I created the Universal Comic Guide catalog, which was a way to catalog comic books. That's how this all happened. And then I came up with a way it was actually right when I was at the very end of the book. I said, it's amazing how many comics online say that they're rare or super rare. And so I actually worked with Matt Nelson on this, but I came up with, it's called the Comic Book Rarity Index. So it's a new way to index comics to see how rare they are. So it's very rare, rare, semi-rare, relatively rare, and item-specific rare. The example that Matt Nelson gave me, which I was very thankful for, was, and it makes a lot of sense, like Incredible Hulk number 181, right? That's the first Wolverine. Well, there's 18,000 copies graded. So that's item specific rare. We have 300 million people that live in this country, and I would say a significant portion would love to have that book. That book is just super valuable. It's kind of like Amazing Fantasy 15, right? The first Spider-Man, 3,400 plus copies. Well, that's item specific rare. It's still rare, and people still want it, but I think this helps us as collectors to kind of point out what is truly rare. And so I appreciated his help in that.
Yeah, that's great. Well, Matt, where can people pick up your book?
So the book right now is all on Amazon. This is the hardcover, and then there is a paperback, and then there's a Kindle version as well. I am going to be doing a book signing at Comics and Coffee on April 12th in Reno. The owner, Alex, is a really cool guy. Just opened his third comics and coffee shop. So he brings the culture to our Reno area. So I'm very thankful for him. And on March 21st, I'll be on Colo 8 TV. So it's a local TV station. So I'll get an opportunity to promote the book on that. And then hopefully maybe there's a Marvel podcaster that you know who might be interested in helping me share the news. That would be awesome as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. Well, Matt, I'm glad to have met you, and you're doing good work, and I appreciate what you're doing, and I wish you all the luck. I know, I mean, you've got it published now. Now you just need to promote,
Yeah,
and
it's
it seems
done.
like you're
It's
on that
done.
trail now.
Official. Ty, thank you so much for your kindness, and thanks for having me on today. And I hope everybody gets a chance to watch this, and I wish you much success as well.